Hi, thank you for joining me. I have mentioned before that I'm on the autistic spectrum, so I want to say a bit about what autism actually is, because it's still something of a mysterious and misunderstood condition that affects a lot of people, either directly or indirectly. So I want to shed some light on it. Does it surprise you to know that I'm autistic? To look at me, you wouldn't know, but I am. A lot of people think of an autistic person as someone who is silent, expressionless, in a world of their own, no emotion, or a prodigal genius. This is the stereotype, because this is the visible autism. Films and TV haven't helped with that either. They usually only show that one type of autistic, and so people just think that's what it is, it's all just the same. Autism is as varied as the weather. There are different levels of autism. It covers a very wide spectrum. Autistic people are all very different. At the high end, there are people who are unable to speak, and some who can't make sense of the world at all. But this isn't the majority. How it affects you is a very individual thing. Often it is largely invisible on the outside. So people say, "You don't look autistic," or "You seem so normal." You think, well, what's it supposed to look like? What they really mean is, you're not what I expect an autistic person to be. When a condition isn't visible, people find it hard to accept that it exists. They're always looking for the visible. To explain what autism actually is, it's a neurological condition where, in very simple terms, the brain is wired differently. There's a difference in the brain structure, so you have different ways of thinking and you process information differently. The way you read and do things is sometimes different to that of other people. Your sensory experiences are different. It's sometimes divided into two subcategories of high functioning and low functioning autism. High functioning, which is what I am, is where someone is at the lower end of the spectrum. They're independent, they're able to do all the usual things, and they can manage their lives, but they have some deficits. Low functioning is where someone is at the higher end, and they have a lot more difficulty with understanding the world, communicating, and knowing what to do and when. They need help and input from other people daily. Autism is characterized by difficulty with communication and social interaction, difficulty in reading non-verbal communication, reading situations and understanding jokes and sarcasm, repetitive behaviours, dislike of change, a need for a routine, repetitive body movements, spending a lot of time on specific interests, sensory issues, sensitivity to noise, bright lights, certain textures or smells. Some senses may be oversensitive and some undersensitive. It's different for each person. Then there's the sensory overload, when the brain becomes overwhelmed by sensory activity. This causes feelings of stress, anxiety, tiredness, and sometimes feeling unwell. There are usually secondary conditions with autism. Depression, anxiety, and OCD are common. Some autistics have other disorders like ADD, ADHD, and epilepsy. Every person is unique in how they're affected. As people, we're often misunderstood and seen as quirky. Other people sometimes misread the things we do and say because our responses and ways of interacting aren't always what they expect. So other people can be critical of you because they don't understand, which has a big impact on your self-confidence. We have to learn how other people work and try to copy it as best we can, so we don't become alienated. This can be quite a strain. The world can feel scary, confusing, and overwhelming. It does get difficult sometimes. Unfortunately, because of a lack of knowledge and understanding, there is still a desire to try and cure autism with ineffective treatments. It can't be cured. When it comes to treatment, you can't take away the autism, but you can treat the secondary conditions. And when you do that, life becomes easier. The more understanding you have of yourself, the easier it is to deal with. You have to know your needs. Autism is not the terrible thing that people think it is. Autism is just a different take on life, and no, it's not caused by vaccinations. Autism was greatly misunderstood for a long time, and this is why we have what I call the lost generations of autistics. Because up until fairly recently, it was only people with severe autism, where it's very apparent, that got diagnosed. Now, with all the advances in the understanding of it, they're catching up with themselves, and people are being diagnosed later in life. Autistic people often feel different to other people, but they don't really know how or why. And a lot of people of my generation and earlier generations spent years wondering what was wrong with them and trying to find the answers, but not getting anywhere, as I did. And we had years of parents and teachers trying to normalise us because the understanding wasn't there. I believe there are still a lot of people out there who are autistic and don't know it, because anyone of a certain age who is not at the severe end of the spectrum where it's visible is unlikely to have had a diagnosis in childhood, and they're struggling through life because they have these difficulties and they don't understand why. They just keep trying to eradicate them and failing, as I did. That's why I believe it's so important for people to understand what autism is and have the resources to be assessed. The first step is always to see the doctor and ask to be referred for an assessment. Autism is more common than they originally thought, and there's a good chance that you know or have met someone who's autistic. Learning that you're autistic can be hard. Sometimes people feel stigmatised or inadequate. They think it means that they're less capable than other people, which isn't true. Some things you can actually do better than other people. The worst thing you can do is try and force yourself to be like other people, because it never works. Autism doesn't have to be a stone around your neck. It's not always easy, but there are definite advantages. Autism does not make you stupid. In fact, many people with autism are highly intelligent. It may be expressed differently, but they have talents that they excel at, and in some professions they do very well. They have abilities that other people don't. Even those who are severely impaired have abilities. If you're autistic, see it as a gift. Own it. If you have an autistic child, don't worry about it. They have talents and abilities of their own. With support and encouragement, they can go far. Don't try and change them or normalise them. Accept them for who they are. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching. See you next time.